I'm back and I'm ready to DIY. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Moxie DIY in Java. I'm Michelle. It's been a bit since the last time I saw you, and I am ready to get into the DIY mode again. Our house is about maybe 80% done. We've got a couple boxes left, and for those of you who don't know, my family and I made a really big move this summer from Washington State to Texas. So we are now close to family, which is amazing, and we are getting settled. So all of that during the summer kind of left very little time to film. But the house is mostly together and most of the boxes are unpacked and gone, so I am ready to get this party started. So today's video is trash to cash, and I will get into that in a little bit. But for now, grab that cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and join me. So this box was part of the packaging for a really pretty porcelain bowl my husband brought back from, I think it was either Korea or Japan, I can't remember. And the Asian letters don't really mean much to me, so we're gonna cover this and see if we can make some money off of it. So this is just a leather from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to measure out the various sides and top of the box, and then we're going to glue it on. This is glossy Mod Podge, but use whatever glue you have on hand. I'm actually going to be using a combination of both Mod Podge and hot glue. And you don't see it here on this, but I actually end up pulling up the edges of this covering and using hot glue around those edges. Now, pay no mind to the fact that there is already leather on the side that's facing you, because I'm going to end up taking it off because I decided to go a different way with this. Rather than doing 4 individual pieces, we're going to do 2 long pieces and wrap them. And I think that that gave it a much better edge and a more professional look. Once again, I'm using Mod Podge, and the only difference that I don't show here is that I put hot glue on the edge, the middle, and then the other edge. So right there where my thumb is, I would put some hot glue. I'd put some hot glue on that corner where it's wrapped, and then this other edge where I'm showing you where I am putting the hot glue. And that did a really good job of adhering everything down once the Mod Podge was dry. And I'm just using the weight of my hand to press in that hot glue so that way it is a smaller profile versus very bumpy. And as you can see, it's really smooth. So now I'm going to do the other side, and here it is, and we're just going to trim off any excess. This is so satisfying. Now I'm going to melt the edges together with my lighter, and be very careful doing this, but it actually helps create a more smooth line between the 2 edges. And I'm going to do this to every single corner so that way it has a similar look on every corner. Now I'm going to be going over all of the edges, including all corners, with this cherry furniture marker. And it created an almost weathered look to the edges and corners, and it looked really nice. Now we're going to repeat all of the steps on the lid. Using my ruler, I'm going to find the center of the lid, and we're going to apply a knob that I had on hand. And here it is, all finished and ready for selling. I ended up listing it on Facebook Marketplace for $40, and as you can see, I ended up selling it for $40 plus shipping. As I mentioned in the intro, this is the Trash to Cash playlist, and when David Owen of David Owen Creates approached me and asked me if I would be interested in doing this, I immediately jumped on it because I think that this is such a cool idea. And he, along with Brandy of Making It My Own DIYs, and Kay and Trish of the Crafting Cousins, are all going to be participating in this, making trash into cash. So let's move on to the next DIY, and be sure to check out the playlist and all the other creators. These particular planters are all over Etsy, and I figured I'd get my hand at trying to make one of them. I'm not going to make a business out of this because that requires a lot of patience, and this definitely tested mine, but it was really cool to see it come together. This is just standard air dry clay. I got it from Hobby Lobby, and the key to air dry clay is to use water. It helps so much. And don't be afraid to use your fingers and dig into it and remove stuff and add more. If you're interested in another project I made with air dry clay, I will list that up above in the iCards. It's a faux Greek bust, and that was a lot of fun to do. Now, what I'm putting on now is just my base layer. I'm not too worried about it being smooth or perfect. I just want to get a base of the air dry clay onto this, what will become the planter, just to give it a little more stability so it's not quite so flimsy. Now, I will go in after this base layer has dried and go over it with some sandpaper just to even out some areas, so that way the next layer that I put on will adhere a little better and also go on smoother. But again, this is the base layer. It does not have to be perfect. Now we're going to set it aside to dry with a loose bag on top, so that way we don't get any cracking. It has been a couple days and this is fully dry, and now we're going to apply our second layer. I'm not actually using the blade to cut this, I'm just using the blade cover, I think is what it is. Now to apply this, all I'm doing is I'm pressing it into that base coat of air dry clay. And as it gets closer to the neck, I'm going to start peeling some off because I don't want it to get too bulky. And once again, I'm using my fingers and water to just smooth it out. Neck is still thicker than I want, so I'm just using my offset spatula to just even it out and thin it out in certain areas. Now we're going to start sculpting the nose. And to do that, we're just going to roll out a snake, and we're going to leave one end a little pointed, and that is the end that we are going to cut off, and that's going to be the bridge of her nose. And to start out, all you're going to do is just make it into a triangle or cone shape, and we will add to it later to give her nose a little more bulk on the tip and also on the sides. And clay is very forgiving. This nose was probably the second or third nose that I put on her, so don't be afraid to just take it off and start over or add or subtract. This clay takes a really long time to dry, so you cannot mess it up. Now we're going to work on her eyelids, and we're basically going to be making a very loose U shape, and we're going to apply that where her eyelid might be if it were closed. I'll be honest, her face is not exactly anatomically correct. We're just gonna say that I was going for a Picasso look. Now we've come to her chin, and I'm just laying another very loose U shape again onto where I think her chin would be, and then using my fingernail to carve into her jawline. Now we're to the point where we're going to do her bottom lip, and you want to be careful how much clay you use, otherwise it will look like she's gone a little overboard on the fillers. But as long as you can shave it down a little bit, that's what I did initially when I put it on. She had a very full lower lip, but just shave it down and keep working on it, and it will end up looking really good. And I'm actually really happy with how the lips turned out. If you are enjoying what you're seeing so far, I hope that you will consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. My subscribers are some of my most favorite people, and I hope that you will consider joining us. Now we're up to her Cupid's bow, and once again we're using that snake, but we are getting teeny tiny little pieces and we're just putting it under her nose, and this is to make the Cupid's bow. Now her upper lip, we're revisiting that snake, and we're going to use our 2 fingers, just like that, and we're going to pull the toothpick down through them. And this is going to make the bow of her lip. Then, keeping my fingers in place, I'm just going to form the rest of that snake around them to create the curve. Now we're going to line the top humps of her lips with the Cupid's bow that we just applied. And then from there, we're just going to smooth, shave, and make it look as good as we can. After all that sculpting, I needed some coffee. This is the Monastery Blend by the Sleeping Monk, which is a small coffee shop in Cannon Beach, Oregon, and it's very tasty. I picked this up when I went on a girls' weekend with some friends of mine, Kim and Lena. I miss them very much, and I hope they're doing great. Coconut cream, and dairy-free half and half. Cheers! Now we're up to the base and the arms. So the initial part of the base I just rolled into a ball, as you could see, and I mashed the neck down onto that. And then from there, I'm going to make a larger snake, wrap it around there, and then smooth everything out. Okay, so the arms are going to be snakes as well, and we're just going to fold them in half, and that fold is going to wind up being her elbow. And the rest of the arm I'm just going to smooth out, and the tip is going to be her hand. And I will add a little bit more to that to make it look more like a hand, but to be honest, I'm not making fingers or anything, so it kind of has a petal shape. Now I'm sorry to say I lost my footage of me painting this, but as you can see I just painted her gray, and then I used a dabbing dry brush to create her cheeks and the highlights on her nose, lips, and chin. And then for her eyes I used some black paint and a Sharpie. And then I finished her off with a waterproof sealer on the inside and out. And here she is all ready for her close-up. I priced her at $30 and I sold her for $30. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and for those of you who stuck it out during that slow, non-video time of me unpacking, I appreciate you so much, and until I see y'all in the next video, take care.